Most people get annual planning all wrong. What I'm going to show you in this video is how to not only do annual planning in a hyper effective way that doesn't take much time, but align it with acting on it throughout the year, changing your behavior so that you can get the goals that you want and achieve the impact that you want in the world, both in your firm and with your clients. My name is Mo Bunnell. I'm the author of a book called The Snowball System. I've used this exact technique since 2007 to build a multi-million-dollar business, to train tens of thousands of high-end professionals all over the world, and I believe build the preeminent business development and relationship development training company for the high-end, for high-end experts, for high-end account executives, for high-end partners at professional service firms on the planet. And it's something I love so much. I've been able to build this career, this job that I don't want to retire from. The breakthrough for me was this exact process that I'm going to share with you today. And I'm going to break it down into three big pieces, and this is going to be over two videos. One is, today is, how do you look backwards over your prior year? How do you look forward over the next year and make some plans based on what you learned? Look backwards, look forwards. And then step three is, how do you break down those goals into habits that you can track and actually do even in the course of a very busy life. That's going to be this video. Then in the next video, I'm actually going to show you my actual tracker. I'm going to show exactly, with no edits, exactly what I track to make sure I do the things that I want. These tools last year helped me invest 433 hours into writing our next book, and the business kept running like a top because our team is so strong and because I'm using all these techniques with the team. So if you've ever wanted to accomplish more, if you've ever want to change a behavior or allocate your time or do something that you haven't been able to get around to, this video is for you. All right, let's get into it. All right, I want to cover two things before we get into the three steps. The two things. One, you need to build in an off season. Why do I say that? Think of great athletes. Great athletes don't just go from the on season to the off season. And you shouldn't go from your vocation to vacation. You shouldn't just sprint to the end of the holidays or sprint to the end of that summer break or something like that and then switch immediately to vacation mode. I want you to build in times throughout the year, and annually is the most important one. Build in times where you take a break and you assess over the course of your whole life if you want, but at least your work life. I do my whole life holistically, 360 degrees. Take a look at where you've been, figure out where you want to go and what changes you want to make to get there. An off season is what athletes do that. So if you're just always just on autopilot, if you're always not taking that time out, that break, that off season, you're just not going to have the right reflection to figure out what you should do differently. If you want more on this, listen to my video, my recording with Mohamed Massaquoi, who was one of the top wide receivers in college football in his day, played in the NFL, amazing human being. And over on our sister channel here on YouTube, my podcast, more interview-based stuff, it's called Real Relationships, Real Revenue. We'll put the image on the screen right now so you can go over and check it out. He's the person that first turned me on to the language of build in an off season. I'd already been doing some of these things, but I hadn't thought about how powerful that was. Thing two, you got to track your time. And I'm just going to lay into you here, again, using readers for emphasis. You've got to track your time. It does not have to take more than 5 minutes a week. It does not take long. Your time is your most valuable resource. Your time is what you can't get more of. Your time is your P&L statement that's saying, where are you investing? So you can build up a balance sheet of assets that are going to let you accomplish the goals that you want in the world and make the impact that you want. Just like you meet with your financial advisor, hopefully, and talk about, are you saving the right amounts? How are your investments going? Well, those investments are building up assets that you can use. And the longer you do it, the more you get value out of it. Well, just like money, your time needs to be invested very wisely. And if you don't know where your time is going, you don't know where your life is going. But if you're not tracking your time, you do not know where you're making your most precious investments. I do it in 7 categories. You might be able to do it in 1 or 2 or 3. It does not take much. I'll show you how to do it, but you've got to do this. More on this. I learned this from Kelly O'Hara, top footballer in college when she was a senior at Stanford as an offensive player, became the #1 defender on the U.S. women's national team. Think about the craziness of switching to offense to defense and then becoming the best in the world at it. My interview with Kelly, again here on the screen, incredible. The biggest insight I learned as I talked with Kelly, who's an amazing person, is that you got to track your own metrics as an athlete. You're a corporate athlete, maybe a physical athlete as well. She's obviously both. She owns her own several different businesses, incredible human being. She says very clearly, you cannot outsource the tracking of your numbers. You've got to be the one putting in the spreadsheet. You've got to be the one looking at it. That's where the insights are going to come because you know how it feels to invest that time. So point number 1, Mohamed Massaquoi, you need an off season. Point number 2, you've got to be the one to track your numbers. All right. With that said, let's get into it. 3 steps. Here's your 3 steps in this video. Look backwards on an annual basis. Look forward on an annual basis, setting goals based on what you learned. And then that's step 2. And then step 3 is I want you to break those down into weekly habits. I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. All right, everybody. I've never done this before publicly, but I'm literally showing my journal. Like journals, think of journals you get at Barnes & Noble or bookstore. They actually have locks on them for a reason, right? Like when you're teenagers and you're journaling or whatever, there's a lock because it's private stuff. But I'm gonna show you exactly what I do for an annual process. And again, in the next video, I'll show you how we translate that to action on a weekly basis. But here's what we're looking at. So day 1, it's an app. It's fantastic. Now it's Mac only, at least right now, but it syncs across all my devices. I've set up templates, so I just click one button and the headings that you see here without the copy written in, the details, pops up immediately for my annual review. I just created that template after, each year I just sort of adjusted a touch. And so I can just in a second be right into the annual review process. What's also cool about day 1 is it's digital. So I can be waiting on an appointment that's running late. I can just grab my phone in a second and I can access the same database. And I can search on this to go back and look at prior insights. Love all that functionality. Sometimes in my past, I'll talk about this in a little bit. I've used a journal, a notebook. This was 2007. This is when this all started and the sort of exponential growth in my business took off about then because I was doing this exact process. So let's dig in. So crazy year balancing. I just put a couple headlines up here of what we look. Crazy year balancing progress and investment for next year. I called this a slingshot. I usually give a name for the year. I called it slingshot because we grew in the ways I wanted at the business and personally, but we were slingshotted because I invested over 400 hours writing our next book. It's called Give to Grow. It comes out in August 27th, 2024. I am beyond excited about this book. It is just, the business ran so efficiently, even while I ducked out of about a fifth of a work year and was able to be in my metaphorical cave writing, working with my publisher. But it was because of this process that let that go. So what you want to do up here at the top is I usually name the year and then I give a quick little summary. We had some health issues with my wife. We had a battle. We had a lot of headwinds this year. But as we emerge out at the end of the year, we're looking really strong and we've got tremendous momentum. But it's been a challenge. So I write a couple bullet points on personal stuff and then on the business, just incredible team. Just as travels pick back up post-pandemic, we now have both travel or in-person and virtual offerings to our client. We can just do everything that we want. And I'm just really proud of the way the business kept going while I was able to invest in the next decade in this next book. So just takes a couple minutes, but I just write top of mind. What are the things that happened? What are the things that happened that year positively and negatively? So that's section 1. So let me show you the next section. So here we go. I score myself in 6 different areas. Super interesting. So I got these from Sean Blanc. Sean's one of my best friends, amazing human being. He's got a course, an online course called The Focus Course. And now it's been so successful. It's an asynchronous video-based course. It's been so successful now he has a live version called Focus Course Academy. So actually I said 6 things, I guess it's 5. So first, spiritual. How was the year? I usually write, how did it go? Real fast, couple words, quick sentence. What do I need to focus on the next year? So definitely need to get in the woods more often than I did last year. Not a big deal, but a little tweak. Gave myself a B+. Physical, B+. Good. So my goal was to get 9,360 high intensity training minutes last year. I ended up at 91. It's a little less than 3 hours a week of where I'm really elevating my heart rate up to like 130, 140, 150 beats per minute plus. Interval training, playing ultimate frisbee, which I love, things like that. So that was actually improvement over the last couple of years, not where I want to be. I want to click it up to the best numbers I've got are back from 2016, where I was just really in great shape, about 1,000 hit minutes a month, the way I track it. I want to hit that this year. I think I can. We've got the team to do it at work. I should be able to get the time. So I bumped up the goal a lot. Now, here's the thing. If I wasn't tracking that, I wouldn't know where I'm at. So I'll show you the spreadsheet in the next video. Next up, relationships. Wow, this was just a bonkers good year for relationships. I put relationships first. It's the thing I think about the most. And not only did I have a great year staying in touch with clients, travel is back up after the pandemic at full tilt. So I was able to have just a lot of great in-person training sessions, dinners, flying around the world, stuff like that. But also, Sean actually puts together a mastermind group in Breckenridge once a year that I get invited to, like easily the number one thing I do a year. And then in October, Sean and I created a group called Mashup, a mastermind of awesome, superhuman, unreal people. And we supersized the idea of the mastermind, where we had, I think, 42 amazing authors, creators, YouTubers come to my house, and we spent a day and a half together, and I just met it was life-changing. And to be the focus of that, to be one of the 2 people who put it on, actually have it at my home and orchestrate the whole thing, and our work team helped a ton. Thank you, Alexa and Anna. I just develop relationships I know that will convert to some of my best friends in the future. No doubt about it. The podcast, Real Relationships, Real Revenue, my ability to invite a great author to be on the show and share their great work with our platform and all of you. It's been a really great year. So no changes there. Give myself an A+. Rest and recreation, pretty good. But here's my tweak here. I realized that while I had planned for a decent amount of vacation, I would put that on my calendar. I didn't tell anybody about it. I told my wife, hey, I'm planning on a day Friday, but we didn't plan to do anything together. So what would happen is a client would ask for a call, or hey, in a month, that day you had planned, there's a speaking engagement in New York. Can you do that? Or whatever it would be, I would typically, probably 80% of those days, I actually worked, because either I was catching up or I flew somewhere or whatever. And that's not good. So I targeted, you can see it down here, I targeted working 1,800 hours last year. I worked just a hair under 2,200. So 400 hours off. That's a pretty big miss. And it was because I didn't have a commitment with somebody else, with the friction of having to say, hey, I know we plan on doing X, but I know we plan on going backpacking or whatever. But a client called, and so now that I've made commitments for all these days, this is a big tweak. This is something I learned from last year's review. I sat down for 30 minutes. That's all it took with Becky. We compared our calendars. We orchestrated 3-day weekends and little spots where we can actually get in the woods together, which we both love. We can backpack. Now we can RV. If it's bad weather, we can do whatever we want. But I made that commitment with her and now I don't think I'll break many of those at all, unless it's just like some incredible, absolutely incredible opportunity. I probably won't break any of those days. That one change is going to help me pop up my spiritual score. It's going to pop up my relationship with Becky, because we'll be doing things more together. I'm going to get into the woods more, which I really need. And so I think that's a big game changer. Vocation, big, great investments this year. I'm just thrilled at the economic progress we had, at the growth in our client relationships, the growth in our team, almost 15 different facilitators and coaches that are all teaching our frameworks on Grow Big training and work with the snowball system and things like that. So really thrilled in the growth that we had. So that's my year. What do you want to do? Take those areas, tweak them if you want, give yourself a grade, and then just a couple sentences on how you did last year and what, if any, changes you want to make in the next year. Now here's the gold. This is where most people quit if they've got some evaluation process. I want you to translate that into goals. So, and that's going to get down here. Oh, there's economics. Sorry, I missed that. There's our sixth thing. So in each section, I want you to transfer that into goals. So this is the next year part. So work was a little bigger. That's why I missed economics. So I want to track, this is last year, these are the hours I work. I want to track what I did before, and then I want to set some goals around what I want to do in the next year. Now, you'll see a little bit of this is blurred out because it's a little specific, but big goals for big. I want to execute on our plan. The Give to Grow launch is easily the number one thing, our next book. If that goes well, if that book achieves escape velocity, it's going to bring in just, it'll help potentially 1 million readers, which is our goal over 10 years, maybe 100,000 in the first year is what we want to shoot for. That would put us in the top 0.01% generally of books, nonfiction books that are sold in a year. That's our goal. We're building towards that. Everything's aligned towards that. So if I get that launch right, everything for the next decade is good. So easily, you want to think about, is there one thing that if I get that right, it's all going, everything else is going to take care of itself. That's my one thing. Then I want to steer my time towards certain size of companies and opportunities, and also where there's some leverage. That might be some marquee annual program, because if we do it once, we do it 10 times. A major speech, initial engagement. Beginnings are disproportionately more important than middles because it gets things going. And then I always want another reminder for me is, we do our best work when we tie things to 3-year transformations. People come in the door saying, hey, we need training. What they usually really need is a transformation where the whole culture of the organization is more focused on business development, relationship development, and having a growth mindset. So I just want a reminder in my mind so that when I'm having a conversation with somebody about training, that I'm also bringing up, hey, would it be helpful to talk about a full transformation? We're going to do better work. They're going to get more bang for their buck, all those kind of things. So those are just 3 things I want to keep in mind for next year. Economics is an amazing year. We, as a former actuary, we invested early and we invest often, and we never will take our foot off that pedal. So if anything, we've realized this year that you can actually die with too much money. That's the Die with Zero Mindset. Fantastic book, by the way. Just completely changed my mind about these kind of things. So really just no major changes. Just keep doing what we're doing around economics. Okay, now here's the part where you want to translate that into something you can track. Now we're looking forward. This is step 2. How much do I want to work? Well, I started off with a goal of 1,800s, but I mapped it all out. I'll show you this in the next video. It was a little tight when I think about the marketing and PR that we're going to need to do to achieve escape velocity for the Give to Grow book. I'm going to need to dial it. We're hiring the best PR company in the world. Like, there's some things I'm just going to have to do this year that aren't book writing from last year, but are PR this year. So I think I'm targeting 300 hours. Now, you want to think about, are there behaviors you want to change based off what you did the prior year? So every single week, now I'm looking forward, this is gold, pay attention to this. You want to create questions that you can ask yourself on a weekly basis that are telling you if you're doing the things you need to do now this week to achieve your annual goals. Here's one of mine. I've got a yes/no question, show you this in the next video. Am I delegating nearly everything I can this week? Or looking back, did I delegate everything I can each week? I've tested like rate yourself on a 1 to 5 scale, I've found that personally, I let myself off the hook if I do that. Oh, I got a 4 out of 5. No. You want something brutal. Yes or no questions drive a fork in the road, a 0-1 binomial, yes or no. Having to answer that question each week, whether it's in a spreadsheet, that's what I do. I'll show that in the next video. If it's a journal, a sticky note, a dry erase board that you've got on your wall, something that makes you revisit, are you doing the behavior change that you need to do? The only way I'm going to get to 1,900 work hours is if the team is doing all kinds of things that I was doing last year. And what's in your way here, folks, is ego. Only I can do it. I'm faster. It takes a long time to train people. That all might be true in one thing, but in business, it's rare that you do something one time and one time only. So you've got to be always investing in delegation, training the team, mentoring, all those kind of things, coaching, so that you are freeing up the time to do only the things that only you can do. All right, now let's talk about fitness. So 1,000 hit, high intensity training is what I call it, as opposed to high intensity interval training. There's another hit with 2 I's. So here it's just the number of minutes a month that I'm working out where my heart rate's over like 130, 140. Like it's not walking. It's not even jogging. Like you've got to be doing intervals or running hard. So that's 1,000 a month. I'm going to shoot for 300 a week. I realize that's more than 1,000 a month, but sometimes you travel, sometimes you get sick. So you got to have I found you've got to have a little bit more of a goal per week than you think you're going to get a month. The easy way for me, hey, if I play, here's the easy path. If I play Ultimate twice a week in pickup games or in a league or whatever, it's easy. It's about 2.5 hours by the time I warm up and play a couple hours and warm down. So if I do that twice a week, I'm at 5 hours, that's 300 hours a week. I don't even need to do another thing. 2 more brutally honest questions. This is what I'm doing. Yes or no? In that week, did I do things that are going to improve my fitness? Did I do things this week that I'm going to be in better shape? Well, if I answer yes to that, 40 or 42 weeks a year, doesn't even have to be more than that, I'm going to hit that 12,000 hit minute goal and I'm going to be in better shape. And then this is another new one. I got injured a couple times last year, calf pull, and I had a hip tweak that I both happening while I was playing Ultimate. You know, hey, I'm 56, but I realized in both of those cases, I didn't do an adequate amount of foam rolling, calf digging into a lacrosse ball while I'm watching TV, stuff like that, massages. So this is a yes or no on, because recovery is different week over week. I can't just track a number, because one week I might only need 10 or 15 minutes. Another week I might need 5 hours. So this lets me flex. That question's quite pliable. This just says, did you do it or not? And I got to answer that question to myself each week. So that's the end of this video. Let me close with this. This process is important because you've got an off season. You're sort of reflecting, but just reflecting while you're walking around doesn't do it. You got to write stuff down. That's not enough. Yes, that's important, but you've got to look forward annually. That's important. Most people don't do that. What are your goals next year? What are the behavior changes you're looking for? But it's that third step that, gosh, I don't know if really anybody other than athletes that do this. You got to translate those into weekly things, because our brains think in weeks. We know what a Sunday night feels like. We know what a Monday morning, a Friday afternoon feels like. Where brain thinks in weeks, you've got to break it down into something that you can measure on that weekly basis. Really simple, just takes a couple minutes, and you can see if you did the things you needed to do that week. There's some science called the fresh start effect. You can tap into that, and it basically says, as we have mental accounting periods, like this weekly process, that if you do poorly in a week, your brain has a tendency to go, you know what, that week I didn't do my physical activity, whatever, I can try harder this next week. So you want to tap into this idea of the fresh start effect. Weekly is the very best way to do it. Our brains do not think fortnightly. Our brains do not think monthly. Our brains do not think quarterly. You can have reminders in your calendar system, but they don't naturally think that way. So you want to really dig into the weekly practice of doing this. That is where you're going to have success. More resources down in the show notes below. We're also going to put the MIT process. That's our weekly process that you can attach this stuff to that sort of plans your business development activities next week. Should put a video down there that if you want to dig into that, really powerful stuff. And the other thing you might think about is the conclusion of the snowball system. Really powerful, and it shows how this breakthrough, this booklet I did in 2007 just completely changed the trajectory of our business and my life. Really cool stuff. All right, as with all these, I hope this video helps you succeed. Check out the second part of the series because I'm actually going to show you the spreadsheet I use to track everything. Don't forget to subscribe, like, turn on the notifications, all that stuff, so you can make sure you get that when it comes out. All right, see you in the next one.